Hey everybody, welcome to session number 6 for my Out of the Abyss campaign diary. And if you want to listen to this in an MP3 format, feel free to go to the Digital Dungeon Master Podcast website and you can download all of the campaign diaries there. So where we left off last time, the party is in the Tomb of Cam. And they actually had a couple of big encounters with some specters and a wraith that was actually the spirit of Lord Bryce's Cam. Like I said, big fights happened. Everybody survived, although Fingdarella did go down yet again. Actually, there were a couple people that went down last time, and they found a bunch of magic and a bunch of treasure. And remember, they found a sword called Dawnbringer that was the actual reason why they came into the tomb, because she kept basically communicating with Eton, with the mind. So they had a long rest. They got all healed up. They hadn't had a long rest in quite a while. I think it was probably a couple of sessions since they last had a long rest. So I went ahead and let them have a non-eventful long rest. They got back all of their hit points, their spell slots. They got back half of their healing dice. So they wanted to check out that corridor to the south. Because remember, when they came into the second level of this tomb, they went east, and that's when, because Dawnbringer kept saying, you're getting closer, Eton, you're getting closer, and then they found the secret chamber, and the rest is history. So they all go back that, they chalk up all their wounds. They're low on healing potions. I believe that there's 2 healing potions between the entire party. They are now starting to realize that they are going to need to do something about this healing problem that I've mentioned throughout the last couple of campaign diaries. So they now acknowledge us, and I have, honestly, guys, I haven't even said anything to them. Because once the healing potions started running out, a couple of the guys were like, hey guys, we need to think about doing some multi-classing, because we're just burning through too many of these potions, and we're not getting any more. That's the reason. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not putting any more healing. I'll put the occasional potion in, but I'm not just going to keep, giving them potions every encounter. And I told you that a couple of sessions ago, I wasn't going to. So as they're going back out into the main chamber where this door to the south is, Jimson has this necklace of fireballs now, right? This thing is burning a hole in his pocket. He is already wanting to start just chucking these beads all over the place. And I'm totally for that. I'm fine with that. Because Jimson, remember, he's the Silver Fox, and he wears nothing but a loincloth. But he's a sorcerer. He's not a mage, so he doesn't have any kind of spell sculpting. So whenever he starts throwing these fireball beads, there's going to be a lot of saving throws that are going to have to be made. And these guys are dungeon delvers. I mean, this is obvious. And by this point, the wheels in my mind are starting to churn. Not only about them just being dungeoneers, but actually about the entire campaign in general. And I'm thinking about taking this campaign in a whole new direction because I want to cater to what they are going to enjoy. But I'll talk about that later. Now, the party is starting to feel a lot more confident. They were already confident before, but they're even feeling that much more confident. And I think it kind of stems to Fingdarella, because remember, Fingdarella was having a lot of bad luck with a bunch of, traps that were tripping, even a massive one that tripped last time. But I can actually tell that Fing, now with her new toolkit that she got from Fargus, she's going right into the lead now. And Puck is wanting to get into the action now, because Puck he's got proficiency in Thieves' Tools with his background and stuff. So now these two, instead of bantering with one another, they're starting to help one another out on checks and stuff. And I like that. I'm all about assisting. I mean, if somebody wants to assist someone else, I'll let them do it, and we'll follow the rules for assisting in D&D 5e. So Finn goes down to the south door, and this is when Puck starts helping. And, Puck has a successful check to assist. I let Puck have a positive modifier plus 1 to his roll. And he rolled a crit. I mean, it was actually a beautiful crit. So he's checking out this door, Puck wanted to see if he could kind of determine if anything was going on here, because they just thought this room was just too big, just too empty, and just too quiet. Because the other, the undead encounters, they were in the other chambers to the east and into the southeast in the secret chamber. So Puck assisting didn't see anything, but Fingerella with his crit, he noticed that there was a tripwire down at the door. And then he could follow the tripwire up the wall and to the middle of the ceiling where he saw this big, huge false panel that looked like it opened up and something was just going to come through this entire room and smash into the door. So now he's curious. He wants to find out what type of trap this is, how to disarm it, and Puck's wanting to get involved, which, like I said, I'm happy that they're assisting one another. And they find that there's this huge swinging pendulum axe. Multiple axes, actually, that would basically cover the entire room. So once they alert everybody that there's this, massive trap in the room, everybody starts to scatter like cockroaches. I mean, it's great. But Club, he wants to now get in on the assisting as well. So Club goes back into the other room where the specters were and the 4 sarcophagus, and he takes one of those lids, and he did a great successful strength check, and I let him add athletics in there too. So he basically stood behind Puck and also Fing in case, Fing or Puck, basically tripped the trap, and he had this sarcophagus lid blocking them. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. It was an ingenious idea, and that's stuff that, Dungeon Master guides don't talk to you about. That's things that just come up impromptu, and I feed off of that kind of stuff. I love that stuff, and I'm sure if you're a Dungeon Master also, I'm sure you like that kind of stuff too, and I cater to it. So as long as they have great ideas and it's within reason and something that could actually possibly happen in a fantasy game, I'm all for it. So even Club, he gets involved with this now. And, with another great check, Fingerella disarms this thing. And I think there were 5 axe blades that were going to swing the entirety of the room and basically just cleave them to death probably. They get it disarmed. They do all of this preparation. And when they open up the door, there's another door in front of them 10 feet. So it's like, just think of the air being let out of the room. It was like a bunch of sighs. Puck and Fing were like, oh, gosh. Now they had another door they had to worry about. Of course, this door wasn't trapped, but, the one that they came through, I'll even say this, it wasn't supposed to be trapped. But I wanted to put a trap on there because I want them to be using skill checks all the time. And a lot of these pre-made modules like, Storm King's Thunder, Out of the Abyss, there's not a lot of traps. And I'm all about traps and puzzles. I love them. So that's why I went ahead and incorporated this trap into the room. So now Puck, he's feeling pretty frisky, and just as Fing is getting down there ready to open up this second door, Puck is like, hey, let me have a chance at this. Let me see if I can find anything. So he had a check. He failed his check because I have everybody put all of their checks into the dice tower. So the rest, 2 things. They don't know what to expect, and then secondly, when the party sees a low roll in an open chat, they start metagaming it and start backing up and stuff, or going around corners or leaving the room. So that's why I utilize in Fantasy Grounds the dice tower. I mean, it's beautiful. So he failed it, but yet there was nothing there, and I said, "Oh yeah, it looks clear." So he opens the door, and nothing happens. And then he starts to rub it in Fingerella's face. He's like, dude, you've been doing this your whole life? And here, this is the first time that I've really, I've checked something by myself, and have not had any problems. So he's like, why don't you just start letting me handling this stuff? So now the banter's starting to begin again between them two. And then Fingerella's like, okay, fine. If you want to, go for it. I'll just sit back and shoot arrows all day long till I run out. So inside of this room, as, Puck starts to go in, it's a room full of Canopic jars that are in these niches all over the place. And then there's another one of these huge sarcophagus that's dominating the central part of this room. And it's a fancy, I sell it up. I turn on the neon lights as they enter and all that stuff. I try to entice them, but I know that they're going to open the damn thing anyway. So now Puck stands to the side, ushering with his arm, and he says, after you, ladies. Eton starts to go into the room. Fingerella goes into the room. Jimson goes into the room. And that's it, because we're missing 2 players at this point. Fergie's not going to be there for the night. And then Club, he was going to be about an hour late. So they were kind of scheming on how to steal all the jewelry from Fergie. Because Fergie, by this point, is all about style. And Fergie's got probably at least a couple thousand gold worth of jewelry. And then they were just like, we'll just set the trap off and stand Club in the middle of the door. But they came up with the ingenious idea with using Club to, put the sarcophagus lid up to block him from the potential of the trap tripping, which that was good. I don't think Club would have came up with that on his own. He's more of just a hack/kill. But they did get him involved. And that was basically primarily Fingerella and also Puck. So as they're starting to go into this room, they're all now starting to notice that on every wall there are just all of these niches with jars that you can see through, with clay jars that you cannot see through. So I start telling them to put a perception check in there. And Jimson actually had the high check. So Jimson starts to notice, although all of them notice that there are organs inside of these jars. But Jimson has the aha moment where I send him a telling him that he recognizes the names that are on some of these Canopic jars that were the same names in that other chamber to the east where they fought the 4 specters and where Fargus Rumblefoot was. So he's like, so now why are there organs in here? So now they're starting to overthink the process. They're starting to talk about why are these organs in the chamber? What's in these other jars? And then Eton says, well, oops, let's go ahead and find out. Oops. And he pushes one of the Canopic jars over. It breaks, shatters on the ground. And now there's this rotten egg type of smell that's starting to fill the chamber as he's just going to every niche on the wall and saying, oops. Pardon me, oops. And it's really becoming a very pungent odor. And by this time, they're wanting to start, burning all of these organs because they think that somehow some type of necromantic magic that Dave's going to come up with is going to put all these organs together. And Eton says we're going to have a big 10-foot tall mummy that we're going to have to fight next. So I got a chuckle out of that. But as they were just fixing to light the torch, all of a sudden Puck goes, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. I think this could possibly explode. So I give him the benefit of the doubt because Eton already wanted to activate Dawnbringer. And, it is a fiery blade. So, but I do give him the benefit of the doubt, and I tell him that he doesn't. Because he would have known common sense anyway, especially with Puck. So they, avert that crisis. Although, I could have had fun with them. But I was trying to keep it logical anyway. I mean, if you're standing beside and you think of it this way, if you're standing beside a big gas truck and the guy's, putting the gas into the ground for the pumps, you're not going to light a cigarette. I mean, it's just common sense. I mean, sure, I could have had a little bit of douchebaggery there and said, oh, no, you said you lit the torch, but I didn't. Or you activated Dawnbringer. So I just let them have a free one there, and they were all they were all thankful for that. So now they're worrying about this big old sarcophagus that's in the middle of the chamber. And, neon lights on, flashing. They're already thinking about what's inside this thing. So Eton, he's also, kind of playing club. So they assist one another, and they want to lift this big lid that's on the sarcophagus. So as they do it, I totally goof around with them, and they're like prepping for it. I'm like, guys, this thing looks like it's 1,000 pounds at least. So they're really talking it up. They're using inspiration to do rolls, and then as Club and Eton go to lift the lid off, I say, oh, that was a false lid, and you guys basically, almost trip and fall off of the pedestal that the sarcophagus is lying on, because you just didn't expect this thing to weigh about 2 pounds. It was like a piece of cardboard. So it was actually pretty funny. Everybody had a good laugh about that. And then, everybody was falling down on the ground, rolling around in these organs and all of this liquid that smelled like the rotten eggs. So, well, they said Club was doing that anyway, because Club wasn't there to defend himself. But as they did that, all of a sudden a magic mouth appeared. It scared the shit out of him. And this magic mouth says, "Oh, you disturbed the tomb of Brisus." And Jimson's like, "The tomb of Brisus, didn't we just find this thing on the other side of the tomb?" So I kind of changed the encounter on this, and I put a Chol and some stirges in there. And I wanted this to be just a fun, typical Underdark type of encounter with Underdark types of creatures. So now, all of a sudden, all hell's breaking loose. This huge Umber Hulk-looking creature with big pincers and tentacles like a mind flayer starts to attack the party. And these stirges, they're flying around all over the place. And these things are literally trying to embed their long needle-nosed snouts that drain blood into the players. So all hell breaks loose, initiative is rolled, and they start having some fun with some combat, because you guys know this is what these guys like. And then Jimson kind of jokes around and says, "I'm so glad that we just had a long rest." So as the fight starts, Puck does something that has not been done yet with any of the players. And he remembered me telling him a couple of sessions back that if you wanted to know any kind of maybe lore or information about these creatures, then you could do like a nature check, maybe a history check, maybe some type of religious check, being undead, yada yada. So Puck took advantage of this. He had a successful check. I told him that the Chol was an aberration and could poison you, could paralyze you, and eat you as you were watching it being paralyzed. I told him that the stirges basically would embed their blood-sucking needle-nosed beaks into you and drain your blood until you would die that way. So he was like, okay, cool. So now they had some general information. They started putting together maybe the Chol would not be maybe susceptible to poison damage, so they're trying to think of all of these different ways to damage these creatures. When just hit the damn thing. Stirges are like challenge rating 1/8. So now the Stirges, they had great initiatives. They have a great deck. So now they're starting to attack. I'm using my DM inspiration and embedding these, and most of them actually embedded into Club, because Club was right near where all of the Stirges came out. So as they're negotiating, between one another what type of damage they're going to start doing, Jimson's like, screw it. He pulls out the necklace and he goes, "I'm just going to throw a bead in the corner, and I'm just going to go ahead and end this now." And everybody's like, "No, don't throw the damn bead." And I tried to explain to Jimson. He goes, "Oh, it's a 20-foot radius." I said, "Yeah, from the point. So it would be a massive concussion. Everything in here would be affected by it." So he's like, "Oh." So he put the thing back into, he tucked the necklace back into his beard, because he doesn't have any clothes on. So he kind of hides it behind his beard. Now, Eton, right off the bat, this is funny. I mean, he kills one of the stirges, just literally cuts it in half as it was just fixing to attack him. Now everybody is chanting dong, dong, dong. Because remember, when I told you last episode, they, as a group, they renamed Dawnbringer to Dongbringer. So as they're chanting this, they're starting to put all these links into the chat with all of these memes that they created about dongs, and they're pretty good. I mean, there were a couple dirty ones, but I'm not going to put them up there. But they had a lot of fun with that. That went on for about 10 minutes with the screenshot action. Now Club, he comes in here. He gets here. He starts saying, "What's up, bitches? It's time for Club to rule this bitch." And then he notices that he has 3 stirges that are basically embedded into his skin, and he's almost down now, because once those stirges are embedded into you, they don't have to attack again. They just keep sucking your blood. And Eton and everybody else was having fun, saying, "Oh, he should be here anytime. Let's have a bunch of these stirges stuck to him." And that's what they did. They didn't even do anything. They just said, he's going to take he's just going to take a ready in action, and then we just went on. It was kind of funny. So Puck now, he's like, "Okay, you jerks." So now he's starting to try to pluck these things out, and he pulls one out. And then another funny thing happens just after that. Puck fumbles an attack, and it hits Fingerella. Well, he hit Fingerella for max damage, and Fingerella had already been down a couple of hit points because something happened. So he had to put Colossus Slayer on there and all that. And then he went ahead and just put Hex on him too. He goes, "Okay, I'll just go ahead and put my bonus action. I'll put Hex on Fingerella too, seeing that I already hit him." I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, what the hell?" So he shot Fingerella and literally took Fingerella out in one shot. It was the Hex. The Hex is what did it, which is totally funny. I mean, whatever they want to do. So Fing says, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and it's time to go get a drink." It was funny. He's like, "I'm just going to go get a drink." So the stirges still continue to suck Fingerella. So they're not putting two and two together yet, because there's still one of those stirges sucking the blood out of him, which is going to be automatic, failures for death saving throws. So now, by this point, everybody's rolling horribly. It comes back to Club's turn. He rages. He starts ripping these stirges out all over the place. He's the only one that's actually kicking ass. And then Fing rolls a 1 on the death saving throw. So now he has 2. No, he rolls horribly. And it wasn't a 1 because that would have killed him. So now he has 2 saving throws, and he's in trouble. Nobody's around him. And this stirge is still sucking blood out of him. So almost the entire round goes by just as Jimson's like, he says, "Oh crap, he's fixing to die." So Jimson, he runs through everyone, takes an attack of opportunity from the Chol, and he takes that last healing potion that he has and administers it to Fing. And so Fing comes up, he's all punch drunk. He's swinging feverishly, trying to hit this, take this stirge off of him as well. And then when he attacks, he rolls a 1. So now Jimson's right beside him. So now he hits Jimson. And Jimson almost goes down. And Jimson actually kind of gets smart with him, and he goes, "Wow, the DM can't even hit me. So this is the first time I've ever taken any damage." So now Club is like, "Oh, I think he's challenging you, Dave." So I just kind of ignore it. I got something in store for Jimson. I'm going to start using all kinds of ranged and spells on him now. If he, saying that this is the first time he hasn't, because he tactically plays smart. So I'm going to start hitting him with some ranged stuff from now on. I think that'll be pretty fun. So Club, he's kicking ass, right? So then the Chol, and they move Fergie in here also. And they're trying to get Fergie to taunt and get the Chol on Fergie because Fergie's not here and they want the money for the jewelry. So they're, like I said, they're scheming on how to get these thousands of gold worth of jewelry from her. And then the Chol turns towards Club and bites and poisons and crits at the same time. So now Club goes down. So now the only one that was actually having any luck is down. So now they're like, okay, we need to start playing Fergie now, which is not here. You know, Fergie's off for the night. So they start, you know, Fergie uses Lay on Hands to get Club back up, which is smart. Fergie has 2 channel divinities. And I actually kind of suggested that to them because that's the only heal that Fergie does. Fergie is a paladin, but Fergie doesn't have any healing spells like I've said previously. But the only thing that Fergie will do is use a channel divinity for a couple of hit points to bring someone up, which is a smart thing to do. But everybody's having bad rolls. You know, the Fergie gets hit. Fergie almost goes down. They both kind of team up, Fergie and Fing, because now Jimson, he's out of the room because he almost was taken down by the critical fumble from Fing. So Fergie and Fing, with no hit points, these two actually work together and take the Chol down. And that was a hard fight for them. I mean, the stirges did a lot of damage because they were ignoring the stirges at first because it does automatic damage. And they didn't take that into consideration. They're like, it's just a stirge. It's not going to hurt that much. But it just kept pounding. I kept rolling max damages. So Puck does a smart thing. Puck, you know, being a ranger, he loves to extract poison. And this thing had poison Club, so he actually is successful with a nature check, a survival check, and extracts a dose of poison out. So he'll be able to craft that up later. Everybody goes to loot. Everybody's like, what the F? There's no treasure in here. Get any loot. They start razzing me a little bit, telling me that my game is starting to end up turning into Fergie's game, although they just got an intelligent item, thousands of gold last session. They want treasure. They love treasure. So I give them a milestone. I said, okay, well, no treasure. How about level 4? Would you like that instead? So they were like, oh, hell yeah. So I let them, you know, took about a 15-minute break or so, let everybody level up their characters. I helped them out. And then they left the Tomb of Cam. I mean, they hit the gold mine in here. Got an, like I said, intelligent weapon, thousands of gold. Now they want to get the Blingden Stone. And they have to take Jim Jar to Blingden Stone, which was waiting outside of the tomb. They need to get Eldith back to Gauntlgrim. And they need to get Stool back to the Neverlight Grove. So they start skirting the shore of the Dark Lake, keeping the shore on their left-hand side. And they travel for about a day. They do a couple of encounter rolls. Nothing happens. But off into the distance, right as about a day goes by, I tell them that a couple of lights in like windows. And then they start to see, as you know, their dark vision starts to let them see a boathouse that's on the edge of the Dark Lake. So now they're curious, and they see a vessel that's out there tied up on a dock. They get into a more advantageous position to where they can kind of look down. And they're doing the smart thing, and they're kind of watching this place for about an hour or so. And then as some time goes by, I let them all do a perception check. And the highest person, which was Fingerella, by the way, I let them see an apparatus of Quailish. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a huge beer can with metal pincers from a crab, and it just digs its way through the earth, acting like an underground traveling machine. It's awesome. So I showed the screenshot, which I actually shared it to Fingerella only, and he's now enamored with this thing, and he says, holy cow, I've got to get my hands on this thing. So he's getting impatient and he wants to head up to the boathouse. But everybody's like, oh, whoa, whoa, what do you see? Hold on, what do you see? So he's starting to explain this. And then as everybody starts to stealthily start, going towards the boathouse, and they're using the stalagmites and the stalactites and the other huge boulders around as cover as they're zigzagging back and forth between all these obstacles, providing them cover, which was actually smart. So they start to get close to the boathouse, and then I incorporate a couple of drow that come out. And this is basically what I was telling you. I was going to incorporate Mick the Peddler, which is a deep-known NPC, traveling merchant, that I absolutely adore. One of my friends, West River you guys know him from the Twitch channel, he created Mick. So I fell in love with him. I fell in love with his smart-ass attitude and all this other stuff. So I wanted to introduce Mick to the guys in the Out of the Abyss game. And then I also told you that I was going to introduce a famous dark elf, of course, Drizzt Do'Urden. What players wouldn't want to run into Drizzt Do'Urden in a campaign? So as they're going up to this boathouse, Fing breaks off because he wants to check out this apparatus of Coilish, right? So he's looking around. He sees that there's a huge hole behind this apparatus of Coilish where it basically burst out of the ground and is now parked. And I even told him it was still kind of warm to the touch because there's a couple of smokestacks on the side. So now he's looking for a way to get into this thing. So now I switch over to the players as I'm fixing to drop the big Drizzt Do'Urden bomb on Fingerella. The other party members, they have a little bit of a role-play encounter with the drow. They're saying, yeah, Mick the Peddler's inside. He's a merchant. The players ask about passage to Blingden Stone, which is actually on foot 16 days travel. They don't want to do 16 days of travel. So I went ahead and said, oh, yeah, Mick can shave off about 10 days from that, and it would end up being just a few more day travel to Blingden Stone if you let, Skipper Mick take you. And then they're talking Mick up like he's the best sailor and all of the Underdark and stuff. So they went ahead and they went inside of this small little boathouse. And in fact, as they were coming up, they also saw Mick come out, which is a deep gnome, and he was actually kind of talking to the drow, saying, yeah, we need to get the boat ready to go, yada, yada, yada. They had a couple bad perception checks trying to hear what Mick was saying to the drow, so they didn't actually say, they didn't hear that Mick was telling the drow to get the boat ready because he's going to Blingden Stone. Because he has a big trade going on. He's a merchant. So the drow tell him to go inside, talk to Mick. I come back to Fing. They go inside. Fing is infatuated with this thing. You remember, Fing loves shiny things. I mean, what player doesn't, though? So as he sees the door on the back end of this huge walking crab-like beer can, all of a sudden he sees a glowing green scimitar at his throat. And very gently, because he thinks that we need this big time. And they actually were almost talked out of going to the boathouse. Jimson was like, guys, let's not mess with these drow. They could probably know the drow from Velkenvelv will be in trouble again. Let's just kind of avoid it. But they talked Jimson out of it. And then the scimitar's against Fingerella's throat, and he goes, not so fast, my friend. This is Mick's. And it seems like you're not wanted around here. So he sees the scimitar, and they don't know they don't know yet that this is Drizzt. So he's deer in headlights. He's just froze. He goes, so he starts talking out of his ass saying, yeah, I was just really admiring this thing, and I was just kind of wondering what it was. I've never seen anything like this. And then he pulls the scimitar down from his throat, and he turns around. And then I describe Drizzt as a dark elf that is dark as night. You see his eyes and his teeth and his long white flowing hair. So now everybody's like, yeah, this is Drizzt Do'Urden. Yeah, this is Drizzt or whatever. And they're just kind of guessing. But yeah, it is. And he introduces himself as Drizzt. And now everybody says, oh shit, do not mess with him, Fing. And Fing, he's had a couple of drinks in him already. And he's like talking with his eyes closed, and he says, guys, I've got this under control. I know that this is Drizzt, and I'm not going to mess with him. Because I actually rolled a perception. I had him roll a perception check, and I rolled Drizzt's stealth roll, and it was no comparison. It was like a mid-30s roll versus like a 17 perception, which was a good roll, but you're not going to see Drizzt sneaking up behind you, especially with him being in the Underdark. And then he had Guinevere with him as well. And then I told, I was explaining that all of a sudden he could feel something rubbing down on his leg, and then all of a sudden a tail came up and hit him in the face, and it was a Black Panther. So he says, so what are you here for? And Fing's like, oh, my friends just went inside and I was checking this out. I swear I wasn't trying to steal this thing. So Drizzt says, well, Mick's been a long-time friend of mine. I've been on many adventure with him, and welcome to Mick's place. He's open for business. He opens up the door. So now the roleplay encounter begins. The party members tell both Mick and Drizzt how they were captured by the Drow and how they ended up here. They found the oozing temple. They found the lost tomb of Cam. They witnessed a huge Demogorgon destroy Slubladop a couple days prior. So now they're noticing, after they're talking to, Drizzt and Mick for a little bit, they're starting to notice that, hey, this guy's got a lot of nice stuff around here. So as a DM, I'm in economy control mode now, and I'm going to let them spend their gold. And that's a good thing to do out there, DMs. If your player's got a lot of gold, let them spend it. Let them buy the magic items, let them buy the potions, let them buy whatever they want. It's only going to make your players happy and enjoy the game even more. And I'm all for that. So they're looking around. Mick is actually taking notice of several of their items. The fireball necklace that Jimson has, the axe that's dripping blood that Club has. So he's trying to offer them different things. But the party, they don't want to come clean with their stuff. But they say, look, we got thousands of gold. What will you sell us? And Mick's like, well, tell me what you need. So Club's getting a little, he's irritating Mick a little bit. So I start goofing around with Club, and I start calling him other names like Krusty and Flub and Krusk, and the players were loving Mick by this point. And they're starting to send me tells saying, Dave, will you please let Mick join the group and be part of the group? So that gives me like an aha moment. And this is not from just one player. Multiple players were saying this both in chat, and they were also talking about it. And I could also see the tells back and forth with them. And they all loved Mick. So Mick told them that, after they got done talking about Velkenvelv and all the other places that they had been, Mick tells them that in a couple hours he's heading to Blingdenstone. And the party says, oh, that's where we're going. Can you help us get there? And he goes, sure, because, Mick is a wheeler and dealer. And he says, yeah, I'll take you for 20 gold apiece. So now they're like, dude, we're fixing to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of this magic stuff that you have around here. And you're gonna charge us? And he goes, hey, time is money, my friend. Time is money is what he's saying. And plus, that's just the way Mick is. I mean, just the way West River he created Mick. I mean, he is a wheeler and dealer. So they start asking about all of these different items. I mean, they got thousands of gold worth of gems, jewelry, and they're wanting to sell. And I stop them. I'm like, don't take Fergie's stuff. I don't think they would have done it, but I don't know. If I would have said, sure, go ahead, I'm not going to let somebody, sell a bunch of jewelry on another character. So they start asking about all this stuff, They want to spend all this money. I sell Fingderella some +1 studded leather armor. Let's see, Eton gets a +1 shield. Club is trying to get some rings and necklaces, but they're really expensive. But he asked Club if he liked mayonnaise, because he has an alchemy jug, and he says orcs love mayonnaise. I was just wondering if you'd want this instead. He goes, I don't want no goddamn jug that makes mayonnaise. So he starts asking for rings, and he buys actually 2 rings. He buys a ring of water walking and a ring of featherfall, which is going to be hilarious for the next part of the adventure, and I'll get into that in the next adventure. Jimson, he's wondering what kind of stuff he can buy, and he gets a DM sympathy item called the Wand of Detect Magic, because as a sorcerer, he never took that. He didn't take Identify, anything like that. So I gave him a Wand of Detect Magic pretty cheap. And they all kind of laughed because he was mentioning that he goofed up and did not take the spell. So he kind of put 2 and 2 together and figured the wand was, something, a gift from the DM. And then he got a Wand of Magic Missiles too. So I let him have those 2 wands. But they literally, guys, they spent every bit of coin that they had. And that's good. So now they're back to 0. And then I also let Mick throw in some rations for him, because Mick, the wheeler and dealer that he is, wanted to sell the rations for 5 times the price of the player's handbook. And they're like, hey, that's highway robbery, Mick. How can you do that? And he says, good luck trying to find rations anywhere else down here. So they were like, okay, we get it. And then they start asking if Drizzt can come along with them to Blingdenstone. And Drizzt says, no, my friends. I need to help the Kuatoa and Slubladop. So that was something that, I didn't want to have Drizzt there, because Drizzt would have killed everything in like 2 rounds. But he said he was going to, assist the Kuatoa that really needed help over in Slubladop. So that's pretty much where we wrapped up the game for this session. And Puck, he had disappeared, and Fergie wasn't there, but they still had a couple of hours. So I want to start the session next time where both Fergie and Puck is going to have an opportunity to spend their money as well, and I'm sure they probably will. So now I mentioned a couple things earlier. Now that the D&D 5e Yawning Portal is out, that is strictly a book of 7 dungeons, very fun and popular dungeons that have been throughout the editions since the beginning of D&D. And I think that they would really love to do those, because guys, these guys they're spelunkers, man. They're dungeoneers, and they don't mind running around the Underdark. And I know that they're enjoying the game, but I think that they would like the game 10 times more if they were just going from room to room dungeoneering. But I want to incorporate some stuff into the Yawning Portal from Out of the Abyss. I want to remember the Drow, Ilvara, they're still chasing the party. So I want to incorporate inside one of these. I'm probably going to start them off in the future with the Temachoa, the pyramid, from way back in classic D&D. So I'm going to probably put them through that first, because it's for level 5, they're level 4. So I'm going to let them go in at level 4. And at the end there, I'm going to incorporate the Drow, basically grabbing them from behind and attacking them as they're dealing with whatever else is in the shrine. So I think that's going to be a good incorporation of Out of the Abyss. And I also want to take all these, as they get the Blingdenstone, I want this to be an illusion. I just want Mick the Peddler, because they love Mick now. I want to incorporate Mick as sort of like, remember Q from Star Trek The Next Generation, how he would just kind of pop up once in a while and give a little bit of information, or maybe direct them in the right direction. I think I might play Mick the Peddler like Q and just direct them to other areas where all of these dungeons are going to be. But if they want to stay in the Underdark, I'm all for that too, and they'll be able to do that. They'll still be able to go to Neverlight Grove. They'll be able to, find the true Blinging Stone. They'll be able to get to Gonelgrim, etc. But I really honestly think that they would enjoy Yawning Portal a little bit more than Out of the Abyss. And like I said, I'm incorporating Mick as like a Q. So next session, we're going to go ahead and make the trip to Blingden Stone. They're going to be on Mick the Peddler's boat. It's called the Slowpoke. And when I told the party that it'll shave a bunch of days off and, when they're going to be riding on the Slowpoke, they all started saying, great, the Slowpoke. So that's it, guys. What do you guys think of me transitioning this into some Yawning Portal as well? Let me know in the comments section down below. But like I said, I think it would be fun for the players because that's just the type of players they are. And they actually really got into the role playing with Mick, like I said. So they're starting to really welcome the role playing because I like forcing on them. That's just the way I DM. But I warned them about that ahead of time. So let me know in the comments section. You guys have any ideas down below? Maybe I even had an idea of maybe breaking out the 5e Book of Layers that is from Kobold Press. I might even incorporate some of that stuff into the game. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like a transition from Out of the Abyss to something else? I think the players will like it. Let me know in the comment section. If you haven't followed the channel yet, what are you waiting for? If you're following the channel already, I appreciate it and stay subscribed. And until next campaign diary, happy gaming and keep it savage.